What's up everyone, welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So we finally got to see the first few minutes of gameplay for Gotham Knights. This was actually an initiative put together by Warner Bros. Games Montreal, and I think they're actually using, or at least working with IGN to get this information out to the community. So some of the very first things that we got to see laid some huge impressions on me, and I wanted to go ahead and just share them as raw as I can before we start going into more detailed and I would say deeper dives surrounding what is that we got to see. Plus, we're going to be seeing more, so there might not necessarily be any need to make too many conclusions. Even though some people have already started rating the game, which is fine. I could even give you a rating of my own, but at the end of the day, it's not necessarily wise to go with a rating for a game that you saw 15 minutes on, if you understand what I mean. You could, however, say based on what I saw, I feel like a base rating for the game is going to be at this number, and then anything else that adds to it or makes me, feel like, wow, I can bump up the rating, and anything that detracts, I can go down from there. I think that's also a fair way to assess things. But let's go ahead and take a look at the character selection, which is what I think can actually provide us a very good way to see how this game is wanting to organize itself. So very first thing that you see when the game starts, in a sense, and this is with the commentator from IGN saying that Warner Bros. Montreal has purposefully hidden some of the prologue of this first 15 minutes or whatever it is, we have to go ahead and see the way that they try to creatively do the four characters. They put them in a character select screen and also a dialogue scenario. So at first I thought, is the dialogue glitchy or what's going on here? But this is actually a menu selection screen that they've actually put together. I have to say, from a development perspective, shout out to the gameplay programmers, shout out to the concept people who put this together and said, let's do it this way. This was actually fine for me, because the thing about Gotham Knights is the game is going to face a lot of challenges. If you decide that you're going to put four characters in a game, then you really have to come out the box with all kinds of funky ideas that will make the game flow in a smooth way. So yes, the dialogue was probably a little strange in a sense, but it is more of a technical marvel than anything else. So if there's anything that I will say I take away from that, is maybe they can make it much more smooth in terms of when you select a character and that character has some kind of a dialogue at that time, whoever is engaging as a responsive character, in terms of, say, maybe Red Hood says something and then Nightwing is supposed to, reply to what he says, maybe make that a little smooth in a way that makes it, just gel together. Now, the reason I'm saying this is because this game is supposed to focus on a family, which is the Bat family. These are all your protagonists. It's one thing if you say maybe you made a selection and your character was speaking to an enemy NPC or a friendly NPC, non-player character, but the four knights are all the main characters. So they all have to sound charismatic, they all have to gel, and they've all been family members. So we need to see that actually play out in their relationship. And so I think that's one thing that many people might have some qualms with. But if you're not necessarily up for the dialogue, you just want to enjoy the game and everything that it brings, then you'll probably maybe look and say, all right, that's fine. I just want to pick my main and let's go into this game. So it probably won't matter for everyone. But again, from a side of polish and a side of, basically getting every single system as close to 10 out of 10 as you possibly can, which is actually Stephen Hill's own theory, the way he likes to develop his games, I'd say that, just a little bit of polish is probably going to make that whole thing work. And then moving on from that dialogue and character selection, we got to see Batgirl this time. Everyone was hoping for Red Hood at least, but I wasn't surprised that Batgirl was on the forefront. For some reason, it appears that they just like Batgirl in that studio. We get it. Most of us want to play Batgirl. We're Batgirl mains, but the reality is we would like to see some other characters in limelight. We want to see how they play. We want to see how they approach things. And we got to see Red Hood. We got to see some of Nightwing even in their gameplay. But Robin is still getting robbed. No, see what I did there? Anyways, and it would have been nice if we actually got to see him. It would, it would have been nice to, take a break. It would have been a nice break to see Robin approach the mission. But again, we have to also be mindful that there will be more coming, and hopefully we'll get to see Robin at the forefront of his own mission, how he approaches things, stealth, combat, and some of his own skills in a gameplay environment. So far, so good nonetheless. I have to say, it was nice to see Barbara basically make her way, using her grapple to move from different positions across rooftops. This is a very intricate aspect of a Batman game. It was also nice to see some of the UI elements get toned down. I still am saying, though, that it seems the text for the UI is heavily pronounced. Like, yo, in that tutorial section, when they actually showed like, oh, okay, tutorial, this is how you do this, this, and this, it just felt like the text was super huge. Now, I get it. There's accessibility that actually allows for, you as a player to be able to tweak and, get the best out of the game. So there might be people who require for larger text and larger font size. So I understand that that's a thing. If they would only give us an option to be able to modify our font size, our text size, and all of those different things, that would be really nice for most of us. And I'm sure there's probably the option to turn off the tutorials as well, so that if you wanted to go back and play the game on a second playthrough, you can just plow through all of this stuff without having to do this same tutorial. So hopefully there are these modification options that are available so that, the audience is able to just basically enjoy the content as best as they can and as freely as we possibly can. So we got to see Barbara in a lot of stealth, scenarios. We got to see her in some combat scenarios. I have to say, though, it appeared that the spacing, again, that's another thing about, combat games like these is, you really have to build your combat game for the combat that you actually want, to represent. And so when you actually look at the way that fight went down, it looked like a library, somewhere here. It just appeared to me that the challenges of the space between characters in a comic book style game is very important. This is why Marvel's Spider-Man and Arkham adopted more of a free flow combat, because the break, every time having to turn your character to face the enemy, every time having to turn, your camera and all of that stuff, it could really be tedious. So I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know how this is going to play out. Maybe the person that was playing also didn't necessarily have all of the skills intended to be able to transition from one character to another, and so on and so forth. So these are also questions that we have. And again, until we put our hands on this game, it's going to be really hard to tell how this combat can be made to work. Because again, I'm not saying that they have to adopt free flow. I know someone's going to read it as that, but at least there has to be something that lets you know, okay, how is my combat going to transition from character to character, and how am I going to be able to chain attacks and do some really cool things within the game? Because if nothing else, it's a superhero game and it's nice to be able to do cool stuff. If not, the combat's going to be just basic, which, is that a bad thing? Well, if it's polished and if it works and it's not broken or buggy, it's a good thing in my book. And I know it sounds like a bar that you might be thinking, whoa. But again, as someone who's, a student of game development, to me, I think that's actually a lot of fun. And then the fight with the Heavy was a little weird, though. I mean, I don't know. Was it me, or were these just the choices that were actually selected? And again, this is a tutorial, so whoever was playing it was more than likely still getting used to the different systems. And so this is also another thing that we have to kind of maybe consider as well, because again, gameplay feel is a huge discrepancy. Like, how are we going to go ahead and actually deal with that? Because the gameplay was a little weird. When the enemy NPC was down, Barbara walks away. She didn't go there for a finisher. She didn't go there for a beatdown. She didn't go there for a barrage or whatever it is. So I don't know. I don't know what the goal was for, that fight. Maybe there was some kind of they wanted to maybe extend the gameplay to 15 minutes or something. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I've still said this and I'll continue to say this. A demo will be nice for us as the community to get, because, some people have said, a demo might not necessarily be the best way to go, but I disagree. This was given to IGN for maybe free, or maybe even, I don't know what their PR communications look like, but we, the community, are the ones that are going to be paying the full price for the game. So I don't see anything wrong in us getting possibly, some gameplay. So hopefully we get to see some of that. Hopefully we get to, experience it ourselves before the game comes out. And even with the PlayStation subscription, we get at least, or PlayStation subscribers who are subscribed to the, premium or whatever the tier is, are able to get that 2-hour, gameplay test or demo or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, I want to hear your thoughts in the comment section. I'll try my best to go through and break some of this stuff down that I saw or found interesting, and we'll go on from there. But thanks so much for watching the video. I really appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon. Peace out.